Hello everyone, Danny here today to talk to you about the audiobook Siege Tactics, Book 4 of Drew Hayes' Spells, Swords, and Stealth series. Now this is one of my favorite series. I think of it as the NPC series. That's the name of the first book, NPCs, and so that's always just kind of stuck in my head as this is the NPC series. Book came out, I was so excited I pre-ordered it on Audible, and then I had a few requests that people wanted me to let them know what I thought of certain books. And so I was getting through those books. Finally, I found a spot where I could slid it in there. I'm so excited I get to listen to the book. Question is, does this book deliver? Is it a bomb or does it just keep me in love with this series? I'm about to tell you that. But before I do, I have a favor to ask. If, like me, you love audiobooks, please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications, come join me in my audiobook journey. Now, did the book deliver? Hang on a second. Allergies, dry throat. So, anyhow, yes. Oh, it's so very delivered. I loved this book. Now, so far, this series has been following the journey of two groups of people. You have the NPCs, the non-player characters, and where they're going and how they're developing. And then you have a group of players, Russell and Tim and his group of players, that are, on the outside trying to figure things out. They've come to realize that there's a connection between this world and that game, that magic really exists in this world. And so they're trying to figure out, hey, what is going on? In the last book, Gabrielle got attached to some axe that turned her into a non-dead. What kind of non-dead is she? Do we like this new twist? That was a twist where I was like, wait a minute. I don't want her to be I don't want her to be undead. I like her the way she is. Why would you throw this change in there? Is this going to be a change that I'm going to be happy with, that I'm going to be unhappy with? What kind of an effect is that going to have on the book? And of course, they're still fleeing from this mad king that wants them, executed. So in this book, you've got the two groups. They don't end up crossing paths anywhere in this book at all. In previous books, they've crossed paths. They don't in this book. You have, I want to say Thimble. It's not Thimble. Thistle and his group, and they end up finding a path. Eric spots a path into the woods. And they take this path that only Eric can see. And so they're wondering, is this divine? Is Eric being divinely led? And they try to follow this path into this woods. And they find this community. Now, this I thought was really interesting. They find this community of adventurers that are so incredibly advanced that they've basically completed the module. They've survived until the very end. They've completed the module. They're basically as powerful as they can get. And so they've removed themselves from the world. They've started this little town. They've surrounded it with wards and protections because they don't want to be hunted. They don't want to be hounded. They just want to live a quiet life now. They all seem to be like Timescore. They all seem to be NPCs, or not NPCs. They all seem to be player characters that have broken away from their player. But it gets mentioned that Timescore is originally thought to be just like them, but he's something different. He's not what they are. So I didn't really understand that. Were they player characters that broke away like I think they are? Or was there something else going on there? Is Timescore something more? Is it the fact that he touched the bridge? Is that what they're referring to? Is that why they think that he's something more than what they are? When they enter the village, they get completely cut off from the surrounding world. Thistle can't talk to his god Grumble. None of the people in the village can talk to their gods. There's something going on. There's a power greater than them. They're being attacked by a god. And it turns out that the god wants revenge on Thistle and wants revenge on the group. But he wants a bit more than that as well. And it starts this really elaborate plan. You don't really know where the plan is going. Now, the town originally wasn't quite sure what they were going to do with Thistle and his group. They're not as advanced as we are. They're like children to us. I mean, their bartender could take on all 5 of them at the same time, and it would be like me taking on a bunch of infants. I mean, he just wiped the floor with them without breaking a sweat. And so they've passed our test as far as their integrity and that goes. So we would be happy to have them in the town. Or do we trust them to let them out? Do we give them training? Don't we give them training? What exactly is going on here? Well, when it becomes evident that the entire town is being included in this God's plot, then they start to give them training. And this training leads all of the characters to advance. Remember, Timescore's trying to become a paladin, but Timescore's not willing to pledge himself to a god. And so they point out to Timescore that, hey, there used to be a path to become a paladin without becoming a god. And so you keep waiting throughout the book for Timescore to find that path. He does, a bit of a spoiler, he does eventually find that path, but it's not really a spoiler because you can kind of see it coming. He does find that path. It's very evident from the end of the book that him finding that path has really disturbed some very powerful people. And there are other very powerful people that if they find out what he is, they might go out of their way to attack and destroy him because he's upset a balance that's been in place for decades that they don't want upset. You find out what kind of an undead Gabrielle is. And I'm not going to say what she is. If you want to know what she is, listen to the book. It's such a good book. You won't regret listening to the book. In the end, this other god's plot. Now, this is not a simple, mild little plot. This is like some ridiculously super complicated plot just to get at Thistle. And there are so many rabbit trails laid down by this god, so many, excuse me here, misdirections, that even when the final plan is revealed, you're almost wondering, is that really the final plan or is there more to it? And does the god succeed? You gotta listen to the book if you want to know if the god succeeds. And what's the after effect of this god going after Thistle and including this village in it, waking up these adventurers that are like the most powerful, they're almost gods themselves, and they've been content to like cluster and seclude themselves from the world, and now he just attacked them. His attack on Thistle involves an attack on other gods. What's going to be the impact of his attack on these other gods? I mean, the next book that comes out should just be amazing. There's so very many questions that you're given an answer to, but you're not given the direction that answer is going to take you by the end of the book. That you have Russell and his sister and Tim and the other people in their group. They're the players. And they're trying to figure out the relationship between this world and the game. And that's a fun element to the book as they're trying to figure it out. And finally they get a new module and they enter the game. And they have an impact on this god's plans to get at Thistle. And it looks like, at least based on something said in the book, it seems like had they played the game a little differently, they could have had a major impact on this god's plan and how successful this god was. Instead, they have just a very minor impact, basically negligible impact on this god's plans. They do, however, they're trying to get to this town, Luminea, that's supposed to have all kinds of answers, and it's really like almost impossible to get into. They do get a portal so they can come back and visit whenever they want to visit this town. They've been given a very interesting challenge from the game makers. So the gal that he gets his modules from, she's in this book again, and she gives him a kind of interesting challenge. I'm starting to wonder, just who she is to this company. She's very obviously not just someone that they hire randomly to give out their modules. She's a part of the company. How large a part of the company? Is she the one actually creating these modules? Is she the wizard behind the curtain kind of a thing? Curious to see as the story goes along. I got a feeling she's going to slowly become a larger part of these books moving forward as her role in that company gets revealed more and more and more. Gabrielle, moving forward, is half contented with her role as an undead, but she's starting to realize that despite its advantages, there are some real disadvantages to it as well. So is there a way she can break free from that axe and go back to being living versus undead? Moving forward from this book, Timescore is going to have to figure out, how to be the paladin that he now is. And, him and Thistle have this interesting discussion at the end of the book where Thistle's basically like, hey, you don't want to let anyone know what kind of a paladin you are. And his response is, if I'm asked, I'm going to tell them. Although I don't expect to be asked. So these powerful people or gods that are worried about, him, and the ones that don't know but will be vitally upset if they learn about him, what's going to happen with that moving forward? And then you have this god that attacked Thistle, this god that attacked this town, this god that attacked major powerful towns and basically pissed the entire world off. You have Thistle going after him, and you have him getting help from allies that he would not normally get help from. Where's that going to lead? And you've got a lot of questions answered, but the best way to say it is you've got the answer there. You just don't know the direction that answer is going to take you. So it doesn't really create another question, but it does. I mean, it's not, I guess the question is, what direction is it going to go? It just, it's going to be a while. It typically is, but hey, that's what happens when you fall in love with a book series. You got to wait for the next book to come out. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you like my channel, subscribe, turn on notifications. Questions, comments, feedback. That's what the comment section is for. Put them in there. I promise I will do my best to respond. But most importantly, no matter what else you do today. I almost forgot. As far as, parental advisory kind of stuff goes, there is a little bit of language in this book. There's no... The violence is not something that, to me, is so graphic I'd be uncomfortable listening to it around my kids. It's a book, so of course there's violence in it. All the best books have violence in them. But it's not like overly graphic or anything like that. There's no sex, no sexual comment, no sexual innuendos, nothing like that. Now, most importantly, no matter what else you do today, make sure that today you listen to at least one really good audiobook. And I highly recommend that you listen to Siege Tactics after listening to the first 3 books in the series. Thank you.